Well, what a way to start the day. I've just read chapter 18 of Last of the Jedi Reckoning and everyone's dead! But we'll get to that. So Trevor and Ferris are looking at the storm tracker and Trevor gulps. Trevor's looking at it, and it's the worst storm. The storm was the worst he'd ever seen. We're told that's saying something. I'm told he got more used to flying in and out of the massive storm, but he'd never done it in this kind of intensity. And he looks over at Ferris, who's gathering himself and studying the storm tracker. And his tunic is wet with perspiration, and Trevor asks if he can do it. And Trevor turns to him, and Trevor can see that his eyes hold the light that Trevor remembers, like a beacon in the dark velvet night, as it says. And Ferris reassures him that the Force will see them through. And he asks him to try and contact the base one more time because he wants to know what they're going to find before going in. And Trevor tries again, but he says till it's out. And Ferris says that they go in, and he tells Trevor to strap himself in. And Ferris activates his own harness, and they push the engines, and they start making their way through the storm. And we're told that his body is failing, but the Force will take him through, and he has no doubt about that. And he's going far faster than he usually does. And we're told how he reconnected to the Force at the temple, and he felt stronger. And the ship is really taking a beating. It's getting slammed by vortexes. It's having to dodge asteroids. And Trevor's almost getting thrown out of his seat. And there's severe magnetic shifts that are tricky to navigate. And the obscure small asteroids that unbarrel unpredictably through the storm. And Trevor warns to an asteroid field on the starboard. And the ship lurches and Ferris corrects. And the ship suddenly goes into a deep pocket, and Ferris feels his stomach. He feels a drop in his stomach, but he lets it go because he doesn't want to fight it in case it damages the ship. And when he finds a hole in the pressure, he shoots out back into swampy space. And Trevor goes, "Stars and planets, Ferris, that was close!" And his face is all white. And Ferris veers around a medium-sized asteroid, and he hugs it for a short time. As he uses its gravitational pull to steady the ship. And we're told the only trick is not bumping into the asteroid. And we're told its path is unpredictable, and it turns and merges from side to side, but Ferris uses the Force to know what's going to happen. And Trevor tries warning Ferris, and he says it's alright, we can hug this for a while, let it take us closer. And Trevor goes, "No, ahead, I thought it was an asteroid, but it's not." And Ferris has to lean closer to see what it is against the atmospheric haze of the purple aurora, and he sees the dark shape, and he goes, "It's a Star Destroyer. It's Vader." And Trevor goes, "A Star Destroyer? He's in a Star Destroyer?" And he goes, "That's not good. He could have hundreds of starfighters in that thing." And Ferris tells him that he doubts it, and they're probably running with a small crew, and you won't think he'll need that much support, which he probably won't. And he says that they can't outrun him, they just have to hope they can beat him there and evacuate the others. And Trevor says that they can't outrun a Star Destroyer, and Ferris tells him to not tell him they can't, and to just watch out for the asteroids. And they keep in the draft of the asteroids, and we're told the good news was that even a Star Destroyer's magnetic systems would be inoperable, so Vader wouldn't pick up Ferris's ship on the radar. And we're told, its only advantage, as Ferris saw it, was that he knew what the asteroid looks like, because he'd been to the secret base enough times that he could see it that he could make out what it was in space. Anyway, so that to someone else, it would just look like any other. He hopes that Rygar has dismantled the beacon, because he thinks Vader will have general coordinates, but won't know the exact spot. And the asteroid they're trailing suddenly plummets into a space pocket, and Ferris has anticipated it a half second before when he adjusted and zooming up and out the gravitational pull. And the ship is slammed and rocks back and forth, but he holds steady, and they're getting close, and far ahead, Ferris can see the telltale cloud of the asteroid's base, and he checks the position of the Star Destroyer, and his only hope is that Vader would just pass by the asteroid. Solace tells Weigel that there's a ship on the radar, and she got a clear view on it before it went out, and it looks like a Star Destroyer. Weigel nods, and he crouches down next to Noon and asks if he's ready, and Noon says that he doesn't want to leave them. And Weigel puts his hands on his shoulders and tells him that he knows he must though, and his mother needs him, and the galaxy needs him too, and he must grow up and be safe. And Noon nods, and he looks at Weigel's face with intense eyes, and Garen crouches next to him and says, "Remember all that I taught you. The Force will protect you." And Solace says to trust the Force, not his instruments, to get through the storm, and once he's through, the nav computer will be operational. And then he should find the closest spaceport and land, find someone he can trust to help him. He can find someone he can trust and have them help him get back to Coruscant. And we're told the Loon never cries, but his face is tight with the effort to hold in tears, and he says it's not right to leave your friends. And Garen says that yes it is. You are our only hope, Loon. We are sending you off. And Weigel says that the Force will be. He says, "May the Force be with you." And he says remember what we taught you and trust yourself. And Solace says, "Courage, courage." Solace tells him. It was strange. Here at the end, she had finally found words of reassurance. "We know you can do this." And Loon enters the escape pod, and the three Jedi stand shoulder to shoulder, and they look up at the skies, and they're roiling with the thick atmosphere. And the skies are roiled with thick atmosphere, and the clouds are colliding against clouds, and they know the storm's lessening in intensity. And we get their last lines. "We had a good journey in this life," Weigel said. "I am ready to join the Force." "The galaxy will find its balance again," Garen said. "It won't need us to do it." "I am happy to be standing here with you," Solace said. And then we cut off to Vader. And Vader thinks that everything works out so well. He thinks Ferris is dead, or almost dead, close enough to die slowly on the temple floor and suffer as he had suffered on Mustafar, and we're told he's now in the perfect position to test the prototype of the super weapon by blasting Ferris's stream and the beginnings of a rebellion into space dust. And we're told he didn't need the homing beacon. He didn't need it. It's already because he had already locked onto the coordinates. So Ferris was wrong. And we're told he approached the scientists on Despair to come up with a program to estimate size, weight and gravitational pull based on a homing beacon, so he could target the asteroid without trouble. And there it was, spinning in the gaseous cloud, and Vader says, "Set coordinates," Vader told the crew. "Set. Locked. Lock on. Locked. Fire." And Trevor screams as a massive energy bolt flies through, and a massive energy bolt flies through and hits the asteroid's dead centre. And 1 minute it's there, spinning ahead of them, and then it's gone, and Trevor just screams. And we're told the blowback from the explosion had been enough to hit the ship and knock it backwards. And the ship is bucking and rolling, and Ferris fights to bring it under control, and while his brain's trying to make sense of everything that he had just seen, and the base is gone, and somewhere he just sees Trevor keening, going, "No, no, no, no." And he thinks Weigel, Solace, Garen, Orion, Loon, the leaders of resistance is on dozens of planets, and he feels the loss of so many lives as a great pain inside him, and he feels the living force recede, as if it feels like it will be a wave that would knock him off his feet. and then red lights and cockpit alarms start flashing and sounding, and Trevor says they're going into systems failure, and Ferris fights to save the ship, and he reaches out to the Force because he has to gain control, and it says he had to gain control because he had to follow Darth Vader. He had to follow him because he needed to be stopped, and Ferris had to find a way to do it. And then it's as if Rygal speaks in his ear, and he says, "Look." And he sees a small arc of light, too faint for a star, and it has a trajectory of speed. And Ferris notices who it is. Notices it's an escape pod and just breathes Loon. And he fights the dying ship, and he eases it into a current that was somehow stable. And we're told it's like a gift handed to him by his friends, and the Star Destroyer is sailing through the debris clouds, heading off to escape the storm. And Ferris has a moment of calm to consider what choice he wants to make. He could either follow the escape pod or follow Vader. And his anger is one path, hope is another, and he chooses. And I think we know what he'll choose. I think we all know what he'll choose. He's going to choose Loon. It was really, really tense, this chapter. And what a way to start the day. This is the first chapter I've read today, and it's not too long after I started the day. Oh. So Solace, Orion, Rygal and Garen are dead. No, maybe Orion isn't dead. And that's the thing with Orion, you never quite know where he is, because he pops in and pops out. So that's the thing about Orion, you never quite know if he is or isn't. You never quite know whether he's with the Erased or not. I assume he probably is dead. What would... I have to know now, what does... Yeah, he does die on the asteroid, okay. Wikipedia says he dies on it. Maybe Lou made it out. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of left speechless, really. I don't really have anything to say. It is nice to see that Trevor and Ferris, you know, they've got their little spark back now, you know. Their little friendly banter and stuff. And even though it was a bit... Even though this chapter, of course, ended in the way it did, you know, Ferris and Trevor still felt like that, like they were back to being who they were, back at like the start of the series in Underworld and Death and the Boo, and it's nice to see that back again. I think the final interaction between Solace, Garen, Rygal, and Loon, and then of course just Solace, Rygal, and Garen was very sweet, and you understand why Loon doesn't want to leave, but you understand why the Jedi are trying to send him away. You know, to them they're not only he's not only their hope, but as they say, he is their hope, but he's also a kid, and as what was it? Why did Rygal say it, or was it Garen? Yeah, Rygal, he says that his mother needs him as well, so, yeah. I did spoil myself on Clive and Astrid dying, but then I realised that they're mentioned in the Rebel Force books, so maybe, and Loon in those books is an adult by then, so maybe they die between that's the Jedi and Rebel Force, because I can't really see them dying now. What else? What else can we talk about? I don't really have anything to say for this chapter, that's the frustrating thing. you know Trevor is really going to be hurting after this. You know he's really going to be hurting after this. You just know he's going to be hurting so much after this, because he's already lost his family. Now he's just lost Solace, Orion, Garen, Rygal, even Tomo and Rayna, you know, which I'm fairly sure he doesn't know that Tomo was a spy. You know, they don't, Ferris and Trevor don't know Tomo was a spy. So, you know, they're probably still going to grieve over them as well. No, okay, making it sound like Rayna was a spy as well. She wasn't, you know, she literally gave her life to try to protect the base. But, you know, you can't keep doing this to Trevor. He's already been through enough. I don't have anything else to say, really. I'm just going to end this review here because I don't have anything else to say. So, thank you all for watching. Goodbye. Hello, everyone. So, I've just read chapter 19 of Last of the Jedi Reckoning, and it feels very quiet now, the book. It feels very quiet and very much a defeat now since last chapter. But we aren't picking up where we left off. Instead, we're picking up on Tatooine, and we're told the sandstorm had been blowing for 2 weeks straight. And the nights are freakishly cold, and the mornings are cold as well, with no sun to heat it all up and bake it away, and the cold's in the hut as well. And we're told that the sound of the sandpaper in the walls and the howl of the wind could drive you mad if you were inclined that way. But Obi-Wan knows this. But Obi-Wan knows that this will pass, like all things, and until then he just lives with grit. And it says sand was in his food, in his bedding, in his hair. Anakin had always hated sand. Now Obi-Wan knew why. And he doesn't hear the knock on his door over the sound of the wind, but he senses a presence outside his door. And he opens it, and Ferris is standing there, bearded now, with sand thick in his hair. His eyes are almost shut by the dirt and sand cake in his eyelids, and Obi-Wan pulls him inside and shuts the door. And he sees at once that Ferris can't speak, and the living force is weak in him. And he leads him to a sleep couch and leaves him there, and he hurries to get supplies. He bathes Ferris's face in warm water and gently releases the hardened sand, and he keeps going back and forth to the cistern, or whatever it is, whatever you call it, for more water and rags. And he checks him for wounds and administers Bacta, and we're told it's obviously been in a fight, as there's a large contusion on his forehead and another at the back of his skull. But that isn't what had dimmed the force in him. And Ferris looks at him, his eyes are filled with tears, and he closes his eyes and turns his face to the wall, and he sleeps for 3 days. Ferris awakes at midnight on the 3rd day, and Obi-Wan hears him stirring, and he goes down to the pantry where he had a pot of stew that had been waiting, and he warms it and scoops it into a bowl made of thick pottery to keep its contents warm. He pours water from the cistern into a jug and brings it all upstairs on a small tray. And Ferris is risen into a sitting position, and Obi-Wan places the tray on his lap, and Ferris just shakes his head. And Obi-Wan says, "You made it to my doorstep. You must have wanted to live." And Ferris eats, and when all the food and water is gone, he sits facing Ferris waiting, and Ferris explains what had happened. Vader, Twilight, I'll just read this out. The words poured out. Vader, Twilight, Rygal, Garen, Solace, everyone he's meant to save. Toma and betrayal. Flame, an asteroid the size of a planet disappearing before his eyes. How everything had turned to dust. How Obi-Wan had warned him and he had ignored the warnings. How it was all his fault. And Ferris says he knows it's not the Jedi way to say that, but he says he is responsible, and he was blind, and he thought he could defeat Vader, and that was always driving him, and that destructive impulse blinded him to things he should have known, and the bitterness and defeat in his voice causes Obi-Wan pain. And Obi-Wan says that he had to sit Alakwan working on him, and not many Jedi can resist that. And greatest of them have been brought down by it, but he says at the right moment you recognised it, and Ferris says that it was too late, and everyone says that he saved Luke, and he chose the right path, and he followed the escape pod, and he brought him back to Astri. Ferris says, "You don't understand. That isn't enough to save me. I don't know how to go on. In the cave on Ilum, I saw visions. I saw a fireball that consumed Gavin. I should have known." And Obi-Wan says the visions were not the future, but are his own fears. I don't actually remember the fireball. Funnily enough, I don't remember the fireball. That's maybe something that I am intending to go back into Dark, just to have a little skim through Dark Warning later. So I'll see if I can find that bit there. But anyway, Ferris then says that this is a bit I remember from the visions. I remember this. Ferris says that he saw Siri in those visions as well, and she warned him that he hadn't lost his arrogance, and that he only thought he changed. And everyone says that it was his own fears again. And Ferris says that it was true, and everyone says that these things didn't happen because of Ferris's failures. They happened because someone did them, and Vader is responsible for those deaths, not Ferris. He says he was the one who fashioned the plan to kill, and he was the one who blew up the asteroid. And they sit for long minutes, and Obi-Wan remembers his own bitterness, shame and despair, and he thinks, what had saved him? How could he save Ferris? And Obi-Wan finally says, forgiveness isn't a feeling. It's a decision you have to make for yourself every day. Every day you will fight for a moment of peace. That is a journey I'm not inclined to take. Ferris leans back, exhausted. Everyone I love is dead. Not everyone. Ferris thought of Trevor. No, not everyone. And Obi-Wan reassures him that one day he'll have peace, but until then he'll give him the only thing he can give him. And Ferris opens his eyes, and Obi-Wan's gaze is gentle. And Obi-Wan has made it through his own despair, and he knows the way, so he asks what it is, and he's expecting some sort of gentle wisdom or Jedi lesson, and instead Obi-Wan says, a job. And that's when we bring this chapter to an end. And I know what the job is, protecting Leia, but you really understand. Ferris as well has been put through it as well. You really feel bad for Ferris here, and you understand why Ferris feels the way he does. You understand why he feels the way he does, even though it's really not his own fault. You understand why he feels that way. You understand why he feels that way, and again, you just want to give Ferris and Trevor big hugs. But you also see where Obi-Wan's coming from. It wasn't Ferris's fault. As much as Ferris may think it's his fault, it wasn't his fault. He wasn't the one that he wasn't the one that came up with the plan. Their deaths are not his fault. Yes, he could have done something to stop Vader, but he wasn't the one who was going to harm them. And so you can see where Obi-Wan's coming from. So, yeah. What else can we say? I don't know what else to say, actually. Something will come to mind, hopefully. Again, Ferris's disapproval when Obi-Wan brought him the stew was quite a bit funny, and also they mentioned the sand again, funny. But funnily enough, apparently in one of the Jedi Quest books, it is stated that Anakin hates sand, but apparently that book came out before Attack of the Clones, so yeah, and you know, Last of the Jedi is also written by Jude Watson, so but yeah, you understand why Ferris feels the way he does, and you understand his grief and everything. But I think Obi-Wan, you know, he's right in where he's coming from. You know, it isn't Ferris's fault. As much as Ferris can claim it's his fault, it isn't his fault. It isn't his fault, and yeah. I don't have anything else to say for this chapter. It's a very short chapter, and you can pretty much just, and I pretty much just covered all my thoughts on it, really. So I'll bring this chapter to an end. Oh, it was nice to go back to Obi-Wan, though. It was nice to see Obi-Wan in the flesh this time, you know, because for the most part, he's just been a hologram since Stark Warning. And, you know, we technically did see him in the flesh at the very start of the book, because it is so that he looks over at the sands of Tatooine. But, yeah, it's not whether you really want to count that or not. It's up to you, because, you know, he was on the holo call with Ferris during that, but, yeah. So thank you all for watching, and goodbye. Hello everyone. I've just read chapter 20 of Last of the Jedi Reckoning. Oh. Yeah. Oh, this is such a sad chapter. So everything's ready for Ferris's departure, and his ship is fueled and standing by the hangar at the Orange District, and Keats and Cohen have come to say goodbye with Dex, who's with them again, and he's in his repulsor lift chair, and we're told he's lost weight during his illness and is half the size he used to be. And Dex says that wherever he's going to be safe and be well, and he pats Ferris on the back with his forearms, and Keats says if he ever needs them, they'll be here. They'll be there, and Cohen says that they're going 100 levels down, and they found a neighbourhood like the Orange District, and Keats says, well, I've got to say Keats lines in the Keats voice, because this is the last chance I'll get to do the Keats voice. If you need us, we'll be there. And Cohen says they're going down 100 levels. They're going 100 levels down, and they found a neighbourhood like the Orange District, and Keats says, except it's not orange. Never liked the colour anyway. We found a colony of erased. They set up in an abandoned field of gigantic cisterns, the ones that used to supply water to Galactic City. They fill them up with water. It's like living on a water world. We're going to live on a house raft. Not bad. And Cohen says that they won't forget them, Rygal, Solus, Orion, Garen, Rayner, and he says, heroes all. And Keats says, we'll be ready to fight when the time comes. And Dex leans in to speak to Ferris for a moment and says that to never second guess himself, as in, you know, don't blame yourself. He says, he did his best, you did your best, and then it's always good enough. I never believed in second guessing, you know. You did your best, and that is always good enough. You'll see more lasses than these before we're through. They were all great heroes, but more will step up to take their places. And it's reminded how the Silverine never say goodbye because it's bad luck. And Cohen looks with sorrow in his eyes, and he gives the traditional farewell of his own words, where he says, the journey begins, so go. Cohen, Keats and Dex climb back into their airspeeder, and Ferris watches them until they blend in with the space traffic and he can no longer distinguish them. He turns away and begins to walk, as there's one more thing he has to do. We're told it's the hardest of all. And Trevor's sitting waiting with Mallory lands, and we're told they had use of the clinic for 20 minutes only, and Mallory has arranged it. By the way. And Ferris's steps are faltering, and we're told out of all the things he had to do over the past few months to seem the most impossible, and he and Obi-Wan had discussed it, because Trevor had been fought with them from the very beginning. He had heard that both Vader and Palpatine were Sith Lords, and that knowledge could put him in great danger. and Ferris had a way to protect him. And Mallory takes him aside, and he says he's been working on the formula since you gave it to me, even though it was Vigal who gave it to her. And she says that she can pinpoint Trevor's memories pretty precisely. And Ferris says he wants him to remember his parents and childhood. And Mallory says that he will. And he says, you understand, don't you, that if I wipe out the last year, he might not remember you. His memories will be spotty, starting from the death of his father and brother. It will intersect with them. It will intersect with when he knew you and Rome. And the pain Ferris is feeling feels like it's ripping him apart. Because he thinks to remove Rome from another memory feels like another death. And he would lose Trevor too. And Ferris swallows and says, I know. And Mallory says he explains it all to Trevor and he's waiting to talk to him. And Ferris approaches Trevor and he sits next to him on the examining table. And Trevor says, so I guess this is goodbye. Maybe, the worst part is that I won't remember what a great hero I was. I never thought I could be a hero. You'll have your chance to be a hero again, and I'll always remember you as one. I was pretty full moon awesome, it's true. And Mallory comes up behind them and says it's time. She says, it's time. The procedure will take at least 20 minutes or so. And Ferris says he'll wait in the hangar, and they stand up off the table and they embrace each other. And Trevor says, I lied before. The worst part will be forgetting you. And we're told that there have been times in the past days where Ferris has wondered if he still has a heart. And now he knows he did. He just felt blinded by the pain. And Ferris says, you are my best friend. That will never change. And he steps back and he looks at Trevor and he wants to remember the affection in Trevor's gaze, and he walks away. And he opens the clinic door and Trevor yells out to him, don't forget me! And Ferris hesitates and he walks out, letting the door close softly behind him. Now Vader, we cut to Vader with Sidious, and they're in his private quarters above his office, in Palpatine's private quarters above his office, and his briefing was short and satisfactory. Twilight had been a success, and the resistance movement is dead. And we're told the preliminary tests for the super weapon have proved that one day it will perform as they exceeded. So I assume this is like a Death Star Destroyer. So Rise of Skywalker did not do it first. You can stop saying it now. It was in Last of the Jedi first as an experiment to see if, I guess, a planet destroying thing was capable. And it says Ferris Nolan was dead or gone, it hardly mattered. Vader had done it all, and everything his master wanted and more. And Sidious says that the success of the first stage of the super weapon pleases me. What does not please me is that you failed my test. And Vader's surprised, and he doesn't understand because he annihilated the resistance to destroy Ferris, and he says that Ferris wasn't their ally, he was their enemy. And Sidious says that of course he was their enemy, and of course he meant for him to destroy him, and that was not his test. And that he fought Ferris with emotion, just in the way he pressured San Arbor to come up with the memory agent, and he goes, yes, I know about that, how badly you wanted it. I had hoped for more from you, my apprentice. I expected you to leave Anakin Skywalker behind. By your actions you have shown me that Anakin is not dead. Until he is dead, Lord Vader cannot truly rise. And it says, a rebuke is their praise, is there a reward, a warning. And Palpatine says, you killed her. That was good, it brought you to me. Vader repeats those two words, two sentences, you killed her, that was goes in his head. And he's struck at his grief and anger that's roiling through him at his master's words, and he thinks he could just very easily struck his master down. And Sidious smiles and goes, you see. And Vader knows Palpatine is right, Anakin isn't dead, and if he truly were dead, he would not be feeling this despair. Palpatine says that you must accept this, that all steps are necessary when the outcome is this. Then he raises an arm and takes in Coruscant. The planet starts burning above, and he says the galaxy is in our grasp. And he says the galaxy is in our grasp. And Vader says, I will illuminate Anakin, Master. And her. And Vader thinks he'll bend his mind to it. He would banish Padme without a drug. He would do it with his anger, with his will. And with all that he'd done, and with all that was behind him, where else would he go? Because he has nowhere else to go except... Or what else? And what else could he do except this, serving Palpatine? And he bows his obedience, and Palpatine's pale gaze travels beyond him to the dark night sky. And he says, see that you do. See that you do. Because until that day, no matter how useful you are to me, you will be a failure. And then we cut away to Clive and Astrid, who are arriving in the ship Dexter's procured for them. And Astrid explains they arranged for a house on Bella Silver, which of course is Clive's home world. And she says they arranged for a house on Bella Silver, and it's near the beach so they can see the water, and it has a garden. And they have ID docs and credits, and her voice trails off. And this is what I was wanting. I just didn't want it to be this way. And Astrid says that we'll raise him with Loom. He'll have a brother again, and parents. We'll take care of him. I know he'll have the best possible life, Ferris said. Even with me as the father? Clive tried to joke. Well, except for that part, Ferris said. Astrid slung an arm around Clive. He'll make a great father. He just doesn't know it yet. And Clive says Mallory is telling him that he was in an accident, that it wipes away parts of his memory, including the fact that we adopted him. She says that he won't remember us, but with constant contact he might associate us with good feelings in his past. And Ferris nods, and the Mayday speed and lands, and Trevor climbs out, and he looks around as if he hasn't seen this hangar before. And Mallory looks across the hangar at Ferris and nods. And the experiment's been a success. And I really don't want Trevor to lose his memories. I know Ferris doesn't either, but I know it has to be done. But then Ferris watches Trevor cross the hangar, and he feels his breath catch because his walk is different. Because he's forgotten Ferris has forgotten that 6 months ago, 6 months before, he'd been a street thief, and over his time with Ferris, Trevor had lost that cockiness and defensiveness, and now it's all there in his walk again. And Ferris just thinks, "Get your hero's walk back, Trevor." That's such a heartbreaking line. He notices there's something missing in Trevor's eyes too, all that sorrow, and he doesn't remember Garen or why Garen or Solace, and he doesn't remember seeing the asteroid get blown up, and he thinks that's something at least. And Trevor's been spared that memory. And Trevor's gaze passes over him as though he's a stranger, and Mallory introduces Trevor to Clive and Astrid, and Loom runs down the ramp of the ship and hurries toward Trevor, shouting his name. And Trevor's a bit startled, of course, because in his mind he hasn't seen Loom before. And Trevor says, "Guess you're my new family. You don't look so bad." And Mallory says, "And this is Ferris Olin. He's from your homeworld." And Trevor turns to Ferris and goes, "Good to meet you." And Ferris can't speak. And Trevor says, "Are we going to get this show on the road? I can't remember chunks of my old life, so I'm kind of anxious to start on the new one." And Ferris clears his throat and says goodbye, and Trevor says, "See you." "Hey, whoa, is that our cruiser? Sweet!" And he hurries toward Clive and Astrid's ship, and he shouts to Loon, "Come on, kids!" And Loon hesitates before turning away, and he says, "May the Force be with you," to Ferris. "May the Force be with you." And he says it to Ferris. Ferris says, "May the Force be with you, Loon. You would have made a fine Jedi. Take care of Trevor. Just don't let him know it." And Loon grins and runs off. And Clive says, "I'm not saying goodbye. I have a feeling I'll see you again. You have an annoying habit of popping up when I least expect it." And Ferris says that you never know. And he embraces Astrid, then Clive, and Mallory climbs into her cruiser, and we're told that after administering the memory agent to Trevor, she destroys it. Again, it's too dangerous to keep while the Empire controls the galaxy and is active. And he watches Mallory's ship rise into the space traffic and Astri's ship follow. And in his heart, he wishes them long lives and as much peace as they could find, as he knows he'll never see them again. And that's where we end off this chapter, and we've got one more chapter to go. I really don't want Trevor to lose his memories, but he has. It's too late now. I know Ferris does not meet Trevor again. I know this is the last time he sees Trevor, because Trevor is brought up by Loon in the Rebel Force books as having presumably died in a factory or something like that, somewhere fighting the Empire. But I really don't want Trevor to lose his memories, and it's such a sad thing, and you know why Ferris doesn't want him to lose his memories. It really is like the Trevor we've come to know and love, we've all come to know and love, not just me, but we all have. It's just dead now. It's like he's dead. And it feels like all that healing he's gone through, you know, he found a home, he found a place of belonging with Ferris. He had that chance to heal a bit after the death of his family. He definitely didn't recover from it, but it did help. He had become a bit healed from it, and now that's all gone, and he has to restart all over again with Astrid and Clive and Loon. And I know I was saying I wanted him to go with Clive and Astrid and Loon, but I didn't want him to go in this way. I didn't want him to lose his memories, and it feels a bit cruel for him to lose his memories. And I know that, again, Ferris and Trevor never meet again after this. This is the last time Ferris sees Trevor, and their goodbye in the medical clinic is heart-wrenching, and you can't help but cry. You can't help but cry. And the way Ferris sees Trevor there, and how, you know, Trevor doesn't remember him, and Ferris, how he's just saying, "Get your heroes walk back, Trevor." It's again heart-wrenching, and I don't want Trevor to lose his memories. I want you to get them back. I've been through so much. It's frustrating me in a good way. It's nice to know that Keats and Cohen are still out there, and Dex, you know, but I just want Trevor to remember. I'm gonna get Trevor to remember. I don't want Trevor to forget. I'm just too focused with Trevor losing his memories. It's nice that Clive and Astrid are together now. You know, it's nice to know that they are together, and you know that was something I was rooting for, and they're together now. And it's nice to know that they are going to raise both Loon and Trevor again. Well, Trevor, sorry, not again, but you know what I mean. And you know, Palpatine saying to Vader that he was acting with emotion, based on his own, based on who he was, and how even though no matter how useful he will be to him, Anakin's still going to be alive so long as he acts with the emotions of his past, with the echoes of his past in mind, and until he lets go of it, he's a failure to him, no matter how useful he is, and that's really just shows how cruel Palpatine is. You know, really just shows how cruel he is. One else. I don't have a whole lot to say with Keats, Cohen and Dex, because again, their goodbye is probably the least sad of them all, but, you know, I do wish Keats and Cohen got more to do. I do wish they got a bit more to do. I do wish they got a bit more to do in these books, because they just felt like they were just there for a lot of it. You know, they've pretty much kind of just been there and used to us since the Tangled Web, and so it's a bit sad that they didn't get a bigger role in this book like I was hoping they would. But no, yeah, it's fine, I guess. It's fine. Hopefully they get canonised and their story gets continued in canon, because I would really love to see them again. Especially Keats. You know I love Keats. So yeah. I'm really just sad about... it's not a death, but I'm gonna say Trevor's death. You know, it's not a death, but he's not who he was. You know, it's not the Trevor we've come to know, and it's the Trevor that we saw in Desperate Mission. The Trevor that hasn't gone through that healing that he had gone through. And I really don't want him to lose his memories. And I know he's going to grow up and have a great life, but I really don't want him to lose his memories, and it really makes you just want to have another story with Ferris and Trevor meet again one last time, and Ferris is able to bring those memories back to Trevor, because I really do not want him to lose those memories. And I know it's dangerous, but you know, maybe Ferris will learn how to restore memories with the Force, hopefully. I know they don't meet again. I know I've said that, but still, I don't want Trevor to forget, and I didn't see that coming. I'm frustrated on it. It's wrenching my heart. Especially because I've come to really love Ferris and Trevor and Keats. I've really come to love their characters. I originally started reading these because of Malorum, Sancor and Hydra, because again I'm an Inquisitor fan. But I really, really loved the characters of Ferris and Trevor and Keats. And even though I haven't read Jedi Quest, so I don't have the full story of Ferris, I still feel it. I still feel him really well. And Jude Watson has always done such a great job at giving enough information, with pretty much the exception of Jenna's and Arbor, when it comes to reintroducing characters from those books. So yeah, I'm going to read the last chapter now, which isn't very long. It's only 3 pages. I don't know what the last line is to it, but I'm not going to get into it now. So yeah, I'm going to read this chapter and I'll do the review and we can get everything else out of the way. So thank you all for watching, and goodbye. Hello everyone. So I've just read chapter 21 of Last of the Jedi Awakening. So we're told the grasslands of Alderaan are beautiful and vast, and Ferris lives on the edge of the great wilderness that lays across the sea from Alderaan, close enough to the city but not a part of it. Bale had found him a house nestled in a small valley, and he has no close neighbours. And we're told his cover story is that he's a botanist and working on a great work in the grasses of Alderaan, but his real work is protecting Leia. And we're told he's not here as a bodyguard, but as a safeguard. Just as Obi-Wan watched over Luke from a distance, he would be here if Leia needed him. And we're told that Leia would never know him, but he would always be there for her. And we're told that he would make sure no harm or danger would come to Anakin or Padme's daughter. That she would always be safe. Ferris stands outside the door of his small dwelling, and the sun's sitting on his face, and the wind is in his hair, and he doesn't feel it. And instead feels only the memories of all the lives that have touched his, and the people that he's loved. Trevor lives in him along with Roan, and the Jedi he fought beside, and the heroes he had known. And we're told Obi-Wan had told him to trust that a rebellion would rise, and it would take years, but it would come. And we're told that Dex's words had comforted him not to blame himself, and that he did everything he could, and that was good enough. And in his mind, Ferris sees Garen, Solace and Mygal, but he also sees new heroes behind them stepping up to take their place. And Ferris realises that Obi-Wan was right about forgiveness. He can feel himself gain a little more each day, and he's even forgiven Anakin. And Ferris thinks, for hasn't he come close to the line that Anakin had crossed? And we're told underneath his tunic is a red scar, a brand to remind him that he had touched the dark side of the Force, and he thinks maybe the scar was reminding him about compassion, and one day he'll be able to direct it toward himself. And Obi-Wan shared some of Qui-Gon Jinn's words with him before we left Tatooine. A Force connection is a gift we honour, not only in our hearts, but in our choices. You made a choice to live, Obi-Wan had told him. Now live with honour. Now live with honour. And Ferris looks over to the city of Alderaan, and he thinks that this is his new home, and he knows in his bones that he wouldn't leave this planet alive. The grasslands would hold his spirit one day, and he thinks that here he would live until he joined the Force and joined his friends and Roan at last. And until then, he would trade the life he had for this one. And he would say goodbye to all the things he know. And the last line of the book is, "The journey begins," he told himself. So go. And that's the end of Last of the Jedi as a whole. I just want to bawl my eyes out at these last two chapters. I really just want to bawl my eyes out at them. Not really anything of significance to talk about with this chapter, you know. I knew Ferris would be the guardian for Leia, I just didn't know the specifics, and this is going to the specifics, so now we know where he lives. And it is nice to know that, you know, he's doing well now. You know, Ferris is alright. It's not fully okay, but he's alright. And, you know, he's been reassured by Obi-Wan and Dex, and they brought comfort to him. And he still remembers the Trevor and Roan that he knew. And you know, he's been given comfort, and he's been able to forgive himself, and it's doing wonders for him. But he still remembers everyone, but knows, you know, people are going to take their place eventually. And you know, the last line of the book couldn't be more perfect. It could not be more perfect. It's pretty much just Ferris saying goodbye, and it's the perfect. I mean, this was the perfect. I think that last line, "The journey begins, so go," is the perfect way to end the book. You know, I started reading this series back on either the 15th or 16th. I think the 16th. I could be wrong on that though. It's either the 15th or 16th of December 2025. It's now the 1st of March 2026, and I think I started reading the book at some point at like 9 PM in the UK. When I was reading Desperate Mission. Now it's 4 PM 19 minutes. It's 16:19, so yeah, that'll be 4 PM 19 minutes. I think. Yeah. So you know, that's something. I really enjoy this book. I think it was a good book. Let's get to the ranking actually, because I think I can get a bit more into my thoughts there. I'm not quite sure where I want to put The Reckoning, because I want to put it in the best. But the thing is, if I do, I'm not sure if it belongs in the best. It definitely is up there. It's definitely among the best. I want to make that clear. It's definitely among the best. But I'm not sure if it tops Desperate Mission, Return of the Dark Side, and The Tangled Web. But also, to me, it is the best book. And those last two chapters specifically are heart-wrenching. I was bawling my eyes out at the end of both of them. I was really getting upset because I don't want Trevor to lose his memories, and it's such a sad way to end the series. Ferris had done so much, he accomplished so much, and now he's failed. You know, and I know we knew it would fail. I knew it would fail, especially, but it definitely is a bit. I don't want it. I don't want it to end like this, and I don't want Trevor to lose his memories. I want to have a happy ending. And I think that just goes to show how good of a writer Jules Watson is. You know. And I think this book, it felt like a return to the previous books, you know. It felt like old times, back in like Underworld and the Death on the Boo days. I keep saying Underworld and Death on the Boo because technically, though it wasn't really until Dark Warning Ferris and Trevor started travelling, and in there, you know, we had Obi-Wan. So really it was when it started in Underworld, and Dark Warning was for the most part just setting stuff up. So yeah, it's different. So it definitely feels, so this book has a good blend of the present, of moving forwards, but going back to the old days. It doesn't have anything really with the double agent stuff, which is a shame. It is a shame there's nothing really with the double agent stuff in this book, and I think if it was in there, then maybe, you know, I would be able to say, I was able to kind of bridge both new and not, both the old way the book series was going and the new, but it doesn't really end that way. It didn't really go that way. So yeah. I just don't want it to end, and it's, what am I going to do now? You know, since December, I've had a book to read almost daily. Almost daily. It probably comes up to about a week and a half of, actually no, it'd be more actually, about 2 weeks or so of not reading, over the course of December to now. And it's not that I took a 2-week break, it's just I would take breaks between each book, and then in some books I would accidentally take a day or break, so it will come up to about 2 weeks, maybe a week, 2 weeks and a half of a break. You know, I've been reading but aside from that, I've been pretty much reading non-stop since December, these books, and they are so good. I would highly recommend them. The second half of the series, I saw someone say they get better in the second half. I think I may have to disagree. I do think they're good in the second half, but it's not quite as strong as the first half. I think as the first 4 books, from 5 to 9, they were a bit rough. So there are some great books from 5 to 9, but not all of them are great. You know, Against the Empire, Master Deception, they were a bit rough. But Secret Weapon, Tangled's Web, Reckoning, Return of the Dark Side, they were great. If there was any one of them that came close to bad, it would have to be Dark Warning. The thing about Dark Warning, it was just action, action, action. It's not that it's a bad book, but it had too much action. It was just putting in too much action, doing too much setup, you know. It didn't feel like there was a proper story going on there. It just felt like it was setting stuff up for the next couple books, if not the series, rather than actually doing something. It feels like in that case, just I've kind of just tack it on to kind of cut it down and tack it onto the Desperate Mission in that case, you know, or Underworld. It just feels like it was a bit much. But it's not the worst book. It's not the worst book, and it's a good book. But yeah. Now I want to put Reckoning in the top spot, but I really don't know if I should do that, because as much as I think it is personally the best, I'm not sure if it is the best, is in like the best book of the series. Even though I feel that way, it doesn't necessarily mean it is the best book, or I think it is the best book. It's weird. I can't really explain it, but do I think it was better than Secret? I'm going to put it between Desperate Mission and Secret Weapon, which makes that number 4. in the list. So now I've got to push everything. That is, I have to push secret weapon and everything else back a number. So bear with. Right, so as my top spot, or do I really want that as my top spot though? Do I really want that as a top spot? Actually, I don't know if I want that as my top spot anymore. No, what? Number 1 and 2 are a tie. Let's make it that. Number 1 and 2 are a tie. So so the best book in the series, in my opinion, and this is a tie between 1 and 2. I can't decide between the two. Is A Tangled's Web, which is book 5, and Return of the Dark Side, which is book 6. They are tied together. They are the Sumerian duology. But, the Samaria duology, sorry. But, they're both very good and I can't really decide between the two. I think maybe A Tangled's Web still edges it out just a bit, and I think it's just because that was really the last time all characters in the series kind of had something to do, had relevance. Keats and Curran, pretty much after A Tangled's Web, had no relevance at all. You could pretty much just replace them with decks or brand new characters and their involvement wouldn't really change. The only thing that really would have changed was, Keats handing over the piece of information about the banks to Clive and Astrid in Master of Deception, and even then you could just have it be like Dexter's access through Keats' data bank, because he brings up it's all in the data bank. So yeah. Number 3 is the first book, Desperate Mission, and it was a very good book. It was a very good book, and it took quite a while for me to think, do any of the books top it? I originally put Death on the Boot above Desperate Mission, but that's since changed. So now in my 4th spot is this book, book 10, Reckoning. I think it was a very fun story, and the end was extremely sad. Those last 4 chapters, those last 4, 5, 6 chapters, heart-wrenching. Tense, and then those last 2 are heart-wrenching. It was a very good book. It was a fun book. Had pretty much a sprinkle of everything. It was fun. It was dark. It was sad. It was tense. You had a bit of everything in there. It felt, you could feel that redemption in there. It has a good amount of everything in there. And I think that's what really brings it up. It has a good amount of everything, whereas all the other books, they're quite focused on something, In my 5th spot is book 7, Secret Weapon. And it is mainly for that ending. Secret Weapon is... I'm not sure if I would say it's a great book. I'm not sure I would say it's a great book, but those last couple chapters, particularly from Roan's death onward, really bump the book up. I'm not sure actually though whether I want to put that below the next one I'm going to say. I do think the ending puts Secret Weapon up above the previous book, but if we're just talking about the books as a whole, not just a specific part of the book, I do think the next book I'm about to say does rank above Secret Weapon as a whole, but the ending for Secret Weapon I think does beat out this book, which is in my 6th spot. I have Death on the Boot. Now again, I do think Secret Weapon goes below Death on the Boot if we're just talking as a whole, but the ending for Secret Weapon is so good. So yeah, I think Death on the Boot, it was quite a good book. You had Malorum. We really got to learn a lot about Malorum in that book, and it was you really got to see about how Malorum operated and just how good of a villain he was. He was great in that book. Next up in my 7th spot is Against the Empire again. I've said it before, Against the Empire just doesn't quite feel like it's threaded enough with each other. It just feels everything's a bit disconnected. And I think it could have had a bit more connectivity. Master of Deception, You know, I gave my complaints. Everything has come together in Reckoning, but it just feels like it could have maybe been done a little bit better. You know, the Bale or got the Alderaan storyline was a bit rough. The whole Jenna's and Arbor thing, you know, that storyline, that was a bit quick. The Clive and Astrid storyline literally just paused halfway through and got picked back up in Reckoning. You know, it could have been managed a little bit better. It could have been managed a little bit better. In my number 9 spot, I have Underworld, and this is not because it's a bad book. Again, I want to make it clear, none of these books are bad, but you know, things have to go at the bottom. And I think Underworld, you know, that was really the first taste of the adventures of Trevor and Ferris, and it was a good book. It was a very enjoyable book, and we got to have a lot of adventure in it. You know, we got to explore the temple, we got to explore what it's like below the crust of Coruscant, we got to explore the Orange Districts. It had an intriguing story, and I think it was a good book, but I do think the other books maybe do beat that. Actually, now that I've actually said that all out loud, do I put that above against the Empire? Okay, I'm moving Master of Deception to 9th place, and against the Empire to 8th place, and Underworld up into 7th place. Okay, I think they're better. I think that's fair. And also I'm going to move Death on the Boo above Secret Weapon, actually. Again, not because Secret Weapon's bad, but I think Death on the Boo's story is a bit better. And I'm feeling wrong, it feels a bit wrong to just put Secret Weapon above just because of that ending. So, yep. And in my 10th spot is Dark Warning. Again, what's to say that I haven't said a million times. It just has a bit too much action, and it feels more focused on setting stuff up than actually telling a proper story. And not that it's bad, it's just, you know, it could have focused a little bit less on setting up and done a little bit more on story. And it just has a bit too much action in it. You know, it's like literally every chapter had to have a action scene. It's like maybe 4 chapters that actually have no action scenes, and it's like a 17 chapter story. It needed less action. It needed way less action, and I was even saying when I was reading it during the reviews, it has too much action. And I think that's maybe the big problem with Dark Warning, sorry, it just has too much action. So, just to quickly go through the list without my explanations. Number 1 and 2 are A Tangled Web and Return of the Dark Side. They're a tie for best. Number 3 is Desperate Mission. 4 is Reckoning. 5 is Death on the Boo. 6 is Secret Weapon. 7 is Underworld. 8 is Against the Empire. 9 is Master of Deception. And 10 is Dark Warning, for my ranking. And I think I'm quite happy with that list. I really did enjoy Last of the Jedi. I would highly suggest it. It's a very fun, enjoyable story. And it has a very sad ending. It's a very sad ending. Again, I was bawling my eyes out at it. I would highly suggest it if you've not read it. I would highly suggest it. They're very obscure books at this now. So, you know, I don't even know when the last time probably someone uploaded a Last of the Jedi video on YouTube. It's supposed if it hasn't been if it's been quite a long time, because, you know, these are very obscure books. They are quite obscure books. And you don't really see people talking about them anymore, unfortunately. You know, even on like the Star Wars EU subreddit, you know, on Reddit, you know, like, I think the last mention was like, oh, before there was something that came that said like a month or two ago, but before that, you know, it was like 7 or 6 months ago that it was. So, you know, it definitely doesn't get brought up often. It doesn't get brought up often anymore. And they're quite forgotten. And, you know, Death Star Star Destroyers originate from this book. They are in this book, so you can stop complaining about Rise of Skywalker now, because they have because they have Death Star Star Destroyers in there, and I know what people are going to say. Oh, but the Death Star Star Destroyer here destroys an asteroid. The asteroid is described as being the size of a planet, so it is a Death Star Star Destroyer. So yeah, I really enjoyed Reckoning, and I very much enjoyed this chapter. And it's a very sad chapter as well, because again, Ferrus finally, yeah, you know, finally on Alderaan, and we finally got there, but I don't want it to end. I want to have a happier ending. And I would read Rebel Force. Maybe I'll get to that eventually. I definitely do not have room on my shelf for another 4 books on top of the 5 books that I still need to put up on there. Maybe at some point I'll be able to fit them on, but definitely not anytime soon. So yeah, I think that brings an end to this review. So, for everyone that has watched my Last of the Jedi journey, a massive thank you. You've watched videos that are over an hour long. You've watched reviews that go on and on and on. You've really done a lot if you've kept up with this series. Watched videos from start to end. I know not a lot of you have. I assume none of you have, actually. I know Motion. You know, I know Motion Motion Bricks may have done so. Popped into his stream yesterday and said he needs to catch up on the views or something like that. I'm not sure if he was referring to me or not, but you know, if any of you have actually been watching these from start to finish since Desperate Mission, I'm impressed. Well done. But I do think this brings an end to the Last of the Jedi reviews. If I ever read these books again, maybe I'll do more reviews on them. But they will definitely be remembering. There'll be a lot of, oh, okay, now I remember. Rather than it actually being a bunch of stuff, and you know, I'm not sure if I will do them again, because it's like, why should I record and upload the same content over and over again on the same books, and do the same summaries, give the same reviews, you know, it'd be a bit odd to do all that. So yeah, this was a really sad ending to the book. It was such a good book, so I guess now we could kind of just discuss a little bit about what the future for the book, for these book reviews are. I think I'll be taking a little bit of a break from the books for a bit. You know, again, I mentioned it earlier, I've been pretty much reading these almost daily since December. I think it's about time I have a break. But it's also like, what am I going to do now? You know, whenever I got bored, I could just pick up a Last of the Jedi book and continue from where I left off, and it almost felt like I had to as well. But you know, it was also, if I'm bored, if I don't have anything to do, I can just pick this up and read and enjoy a good story. And it's like, what am I going to do now? I don't know what you're going to say. Read another book! Start the next book! But, you know, whatever, you know, what's going to happen next with the books, I don't know. I don't know when I'll start reading the next book, I mean, you know, whether that's soon, whether that's not soon, that will be something we have to wait and see. That's something we'll have to wait and see for. So, yeah. I do say this now. I'll say this now. I have got a couple books waiting to be read. And I brought that up earlier, but I have got a couple books waiting to be read. And they are Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor, hopefully. And I've also got the Coruscant Knights books on my list to read, as well as the Last Jedi book that was meant to be Coruscant Knights 4, not to be confused with the movie. So whether or not, I think I'll be doing Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor first, but I think before I even go through that, I'll probably restart and finish Gambler's World, because I started that because it featured Black Hole, and I think I want to restart that again. And because I started that in December, and then I started Last of the Jedi and just didn't get past like the first 2 or 3 issues of it. So I might definitely need to finish Gambler's World. So that's definitely on my list. And I think then I'll probably go into Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor, because again, Black Hole's in that book as Lord Shadowspawn. So and then I'll probably go into Coruscant Knights. At least that's what the plan is in my head. Or I may wind up doing Mindor first and then Gambler's World, because I do kind of want to get to Mindor and comics, I'm not sure if I can wait that long to get into Mindor. As much as I feel like I need to give myself a chance to take a break, I do want to just get straight into Mindor, but I don't know when. But yeah, don't take that as that's going to be coming within the next 3 days. Don't take it as that. I don't know when I'll start the next book. So if you're in anticipation, don't be in anticipation from the next one. For the next review, I can only read at my own pace, and especially because that's the Jedi books. They've only been about 100 pages. They've only been like 120, 30 pages, up to about 150 pages, and in the first book 160 something, or 67, or 68. So they are quite short books. And all the books I just brought up, Coruscant Knights, Last Jedi, Shadows of Mindor, with the exception of Gambler's World, because that's a comic. All of those are over 300 pages long. So it's definitely going to be a bit of a tiring thing for me to read them, because the chapters are definitely going to be about 10 pages long. And one of the things I really loved about Last of the Jedi is that the chapters were often 5 pages long, because I prefer shorter chapters like that personally. I much prefer chapters like that, but yeah, there definitely is something that you'll have to wait and see. I'll have to wait and see for. So I'll make my way through them at my own pace. I don't think you can expect anything like Darth Plagueis, where I got through the whole book in about a week. I'm surprised I even managed to do that in a week. These Last of the Jedi books, I've been able to get through them in about 4 or so days, roughly about that, and they're about 20 chapters long or so. The longest one I think was about 23 chapters, was it? Which was the last book. And how long was Desperate Mission? Just went up to 20 chapters, okay. So, it took me 4 days to get through a 20 page book, 20 chapter book, sorry. It probably would take me longer to it probably would take me over a week to get through over a 30-page book. And I know Coruscant Knights, I think some of those books I did check the ebook preview on those, and apparently they go over 40 chapters, so that's at least it's more than Plagueis, so hopefully it'll mean they're a little bit more digestible. But also know some of them don't even reach 30, I think, so there's a bit of a miss. So it's going to be interesting to see how Coruscant Knights go, and Shadows of Mindor as well. Actually, how many chapters does Mindor have? Because I checked the other day, and I completely forgot. Free sample. Checking the ebook. Yes, 18 chapters. Okay, that's not great. Considering the length of the book. So yeah, anyway, I really enjoyed Last of the Jedi. I really enjoyed it. I'm so happy that I've finished it. I'm so happy that I've read it. So yeah, if you've not read these books, I would highly suggest them. I would highly suggest them. So thank you all for watching. And for the last time in my Last of the Jedi book series reviews, and for the last time for Reckoning, goodbye.